Just like music, sound design can help enhance your scenes in your film and express emotional tones that otherwise weren't there before. Sound design is where you add an extra layer of sound effects, atmosphere, and tones to your film's final audio. Today we're going to look at where to begin with sound design and look at some very simple tips of how to get started. Hey, how's it going, guys? Today we are talking about sound design. So I want to give you guys kind of what I do. I often get the opportunity to work with sound designers, which I'm really lucky for on my films, but sometimes I don't have that opportunity, so I have to do the sound design myself. So I'm going to talk about just real basic stuff that I do, but that can actually go a long way. You don't have to be a pro to really help your film in sound design, and I genuinely mean that. Now, when it comes to sound mixing, like sweetening people's voices, yeah, that's another thing. But what I'm going to be showing you guys today is just kind of the few little things I do to help my films. And I'm in the midst of editing a film. You're getting the first opportunity to see this out of anyone in the entire world. I'm working with a director, Kwesi Thomas, on this. I'm co-directing with him and getting to edit it. So you're going to get to see some clips, some moments from this film before it's even finished. So you guys are getting part of the art of documentary. So my first tip when it comes to sound design is that you want your sound design to enhance the images, not take away from them. And what I mean by that is you don't want your sound design to be distracting. Sometimes when you're doing a commercial, that is the most important thing, is the sound design, and it's the most intense thing, and people are kind of listening to the sound more than they're watching the images. That's fine, and that works for commercials. Generally with a documentary, you're trying to bring people into a different world and make it feel real.
Take it, take it, take it. Oh, close, good try.
And that's where I kind of break my sound design into two categories. I call it sync and emotive. Sync is the sync sound, the stuff we would actually be hearing in this world. And emotive is stuff that may not actually be there. It's emotion, that's the base word, not automotive, but emotive. And the emotional side of music can be anything that you want it to be, as long as it enhances the emotion of the scene, but it's sound that wasn't there. They call this non-diegetic, if you want to be, pro with your terms. But let's jump in here, and I'm going to be using Epidemic Sound for most of this today. What's incredible about Epidemic Sound is they have this amazing sound effects library. Now, when I first started off in filmmaking, or even just a couple years ago before I knew about Epidemic Sound, I would go onto YouTube and I would type in the sound effect, and I would have to go then into another piece of software and rip the sound effect out of there and just hope that it was rights free. But Epidemic Sound has this incredible sound effects library that really, really helps your films. And I use them on everything that I do when it comes to sound design, when it's on my shoulders. And what's great is you pretty much can find anything you need on their sound design library. So let's just first jump in here into this scene. I want to show you a scene here without any sound design and kind of what I've actually had to add to the scene. So I want to show you a clip here. This is just the current part of the edit. I actually haven't even done the sound design for this yet, so we're going to get to watch what we'd want to do for this. So here's the scene with Natasha.
And never really thinking that there could be a different way.
So she was just talking about some stuff that had happened in her life, and we end this scene with her running here. Not that exciting. If you're asking me, it's not that exciting, so we need something more. So what's cool is I can just run over to Epidemic Sound here. I'm in sound effects, gonna hit search. I'm gonna type in city ambience. Oh, I'm in music. Let me go over to sound effects. Let me redo this. And you can see there's so much city ambience. Luckily, I've already gone through this ahead of time, and I've found a few pieces of city ambience. Let's hear a few of these. That's cool, but our first shot of Julian, he's under this car garage type of thing, so I don't think actually that type of music will help. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, I could work with this. This is a bit more realistic to someone underneath a car garage. Let's just take this clip clip in. Let me just drop it in here. Okay, so that's the beginning. Probably, I'm looking at Natasha's music, fades down here. I'm just gonna bring this over and quickly do a pen tool here. So I'm kind of doing a cross dissolve between these two moments. If you're hearing clicking in the background, it's because we're a documentary shop and Mikey's over there editing some films right now. So you might hear his mouse in the background. You might hear his mouse in the background. All right, so here we are with Natasha shot. Let's rewatch this now with just a little bit of city ambience added in there to help go into Julian's scene.
Never really thinking that there could be a different way.
Just gonna full screen it for us here.
It was 6 a.m.
I'll let it play,
Nobody
sorry.
In this parking lot.
So there's a little bit of sound design. And what's cool too is there was actually some police sirens in there. And Julian, he goes on here to talk about this whole moment he had in his life with the police when he was young and how, I won't give it away, you'll have to watch the film. But what's great is this not only makes Natasha's scene here seem a little less boring because you're suddenly hearing police, it's telling us that we're going somewhere. It's the sound bridge technique I always talk about. But it does help not only bridge these scenes, but give a bit more life to this shot with Julian, because the actual location sound effects that we have down here, these blue ones, they weren't that exciting. So just adding a little bit of ambience helps. So right there, that's sync ambient sound design. But when do you want to add emotive sound design? Well, I can't tell you a rule when you want to do that, but you'll just kind of know when you need something to help enhance what someone was feeling. And usually that's a bit later on once we've met a character. So we've just gone through Julian's whole story here. I don't want to give it away because we're in the rough cut stage. I can't show everything right now. But here's the final little moment in his scene.
I'm outside what they think should be normal.
Zoom out here so you can see the time frame. All we have is the sync sound. And this was actually a kind of an interesting moment where we were filming him. We actually saw these police and he'd just been talking about the police. So it was a shot that really worked for us. But to be honest, this shot feels a bit empty and it needs a bit more. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run back over here to Epidemic Sound. And this is what I would normally do is, one thing I found they have is if you type in drones, I'm not talking about Mavic drones here, just actual drones. They have this incredible list of these weird kind of just droney music. So I'm not going to use that one. I don't like that, but let me look for some other stuff here. What do we got? Crystal Clique, Gamma Drone. Okay, that's getting a bit closer, but it's still a bit too sci-fi. Let me see this. You know what? I think this could actually work. So we're just going to download that. What's cool too on Epidemic Sound is you have the option to download stems and full mixes. Stems is essentially the individual tracks, and I'll talk about that in a sec. I'm getting ahead of myself. But this button right here is a very powerful tool, and I'll talk about that in a sec. So we're just going to download the full mix here. It's down there. Drag it in. So here I go. I have this drone. And I found this section here that I really like. I'm just going to drag that into this section under Julian. And why don't we bring it up right here while he's saying his last lines. We don't want to interrupt him too much. We'll put another pin right here, and I'm going to drag it down. And you know what? Well, let's play it first, and then I'll do a bit more of the tweaking. I think that's going to be a bit too loud, though. Let me bring it down.
Normal for me not to have a criminal record. You know,
I feel like this is too empty right now, so I'm going to start bringing this up a bit earlier. Let's play this back.
It's not normal for me not to have a criminal record. You know, that's what it said to me. Like, I'm outside what they think should be normal.
yeah, I don't know. That's kind of working for me right now. I think the only thing that maybe is missing is some of the sounds of the city, a bit more enhanced. Dragged it in here, and I'm just going to start making these points to bring the music up. Well, actually, not the music, the sound effect here.
That's what it said to me. Like I'm outside what they think should be normal.
Some city, a bit more city this time. Yeah, that's feeling way better. So there you go. Just by adding a little more city ambience in that drone hit, I think it really helped that scene kind of get the point across, and we felt a bit more emotion, or at least I did when I was watching Julian in that clip. Now, that last thing I wanted to mention to you about stems. See here, this is a song I downloaded earlier, and I'm just going to play it for you. I really like the beginning of this for our film. Let me play it here. Yeah. So to me, that's a vibe. I really like that. The instrument sounds unique, and it even grows here. It's a really cool track, but there's one issue with this track. It's right here. It's those chimes. For me, it just suddenly made this really cool, gritty track into a Disney song, which there's nothing wrong with Disney, but this is not the story we're telling. And I can actually, and when I go over here to the actual parts of the song, you see I got the bass here, and then I have the melody, which is that cool guitar, or that, I'm not sure what that is, maybe an arpeggio. And there's instruments. These are kind of those really cool instruments at the beginning I was talking about. But then there's one part of the song. Look at this. You don't even see anything on here, but if we zoom in right here, there's the culprit. Just gonna press play. Ruining a great song. Now, I'm sure this is probably because this is a song that someone else sound designed for another movie or something, but I don't know why they put that in there. What's great is because Epidemic Sound allows me to download these stems, I can just hit delete here, and then I have these 3 individual tracks, and I could just like lay those down. Imagine they were for another part of the film. I would never put them in this part of the film, but I just lay these 3 down here like this on top of each other and make sure that the starting point is all the same. And now I have that song without that chime, because at that moment, let me just solo these, that moment where that happened before, no chimes, thank God. So there you go, guys. That's my quick sound design crash course. First off, make sure to never take away from the images. We don't actually want to be looking at the video and thinking, oh man, the sound design's really loud. You want it to enhance, you want it to partner with that. So for me, it's just laying a couple ambiances. That's all I do. It's nothing fancy. I just type in whatever I'm looking at. If the person's in a forest, I type in forest onto Epidemic Sound and I download that file. If they're in a city, I type in city. Again, I just lay it down, I put some ambiances. And then for me, the next thing I do is I start building on with some drones, or I find the right music and I start taking out the stems that I don't like. And before you know it, you actually have a film with some decent sound design that can go a long way if you don't have the budget or the access to an actual sound designer. So go check out Epidemic Sound. They have a really cool sound effects library and the ability to download stems. So if you listen to a track and you don't like it, doesn't matter, you can change it yourself. But yeah, guys, I'll see you on the next one.